Hi, I'm Valerie Engelhart, and in this video I am going to be painting an arrangement of really loosely painted sunflowers. More like, almost like fireworks, an explosion of cheery, bright sunflowers. And the reason I picked these is I've been kind of in a funk the past few days, and one thing that kind of helps my mood is painting and just really bright, happy colors. And sunflowers are just so big and beautiful and fun to paint, so let's just do those. So I am going to do all of this with really vibrant colors. Even the centers, I'm not going to use any brown, no black. I am starting with cadmium yellow hue. All of these colors are by Daniel Smith. And as you can kind of see, I'm just sort of zigzagging imaginary petals across the paper. I like to work in threes if I'm going to do an arrangement. So I've got my one center sunflower and then two coming off either side. And the one on the right is very light. I kind of want it to disappear. And I'm considering that in my composition. In the kind of squiggles that I've painted, I'm bleeding some of them out just so it's not such a hard line. I do want some things to be soft. And now I'm going in with some quinacridone gold just to give a little more variation in that yellow. Cadmium yellow is very strong, it's very pretty, and you can lift it, but it does get a little flat. So popping in some quin gold is a great way to add some variation and liven things up a little bit more. And quinacridone gold is just one of my favorite colors. It's so natural, it immediately gives off this sunny glow. And whenever I do place it on the petals, I'm considering where shadow would be. And so that is where I'm placing my gold. Now, sunflowers, they need that big center. So I've picked up more of that quin gold and I'm starting on my main sunflower in the middle, adding in a thick application of that quinacridone gold, and then blending it into the center. I'm picking up some quinacridone magenta now, which is a cooler pink. It's still a warm color, but I would say for all the pinks I have, it is a cooler one. Or maybe just bolder. Either way, like I said, I want this painting to be cheerful. I want it to punch me in the face with joy. And so my center is going to be comprised of a beautiful, glowing pink color. Now I do want a little bit of variation in that pink as well. So another color I'm going to grab is Daniel Smith's Imperial Purple. But for now, just sticking with my magenta, going in and putting in the centers. Because this sunflower off to the side is going to be my lightest and most faded out sunflower, I just put in a little bit of that magenta and then go for more quin gold. Because it's important that I do add some detail to this flower to show that it's a flower, not just a massive yellow, but it is definitely in the supporting role and is going to be getting the least amount of attention. But in getting the least amount of attention, it really helps set the stage of the composition later. And oh, I just really love how this painting turns out. Well, I guess I should go over a little more of my materials, the colors that I'm using. Oh, here comes that Imperial Purple now. I'm going to dot it in the center. And then put it around the ring of that centerpiece of the flower. I am painting flat. I often will paint at a bit of an angle, but this one, because I just ripped a piece of paper off of my pad, putting it at an angle made it bow, like I was making a taco or something. So I decided to just paint this flat and see what happened. The paper that I am using is Arteza Expert and that is 11 inches by 14 inches. I went with a slightly larger piece of paper because I wanted room to move my arm. I wanted to get that color running and exploding outward. And sometimes, to really get some cool watermarks and effects, it's best to grab the larger piece of paper. One of my favorite techniques is the salt technique. So I just grab some kosher salt that I keep in a jar on my desk, and I'm placing it in the centers of the sunflower. Since that center is where all those seeds are, instead of like painting all the little seeds, I'm just going to sprinkle in salt to create texture. Now in that upper left sunflower, I am using that quinacridone magenta to create the center. But what I'm going to do is I want there to be a bit of a separation where like the petals come out so you only see part of the center. So I'm going to paint the top of the center and the bottom of the center on that side sunflower. And right now everything is still really wet. This is all the first wash. So anything can happen. But so far, this painting is definitely doing what I set out to do, and that is just to get me painting. And exercises like this, I mean, this took me, this first wash, about 10 minutes to do, so I actually fit this in before I had to go to a hair appointment. And then that way, while I was in town, it could dry naturally, and then I could come back and see what was waiting for me, and it was like a surprise. And I bring that up because I want this to encourage you if you are in a moment where you don't have time to paint. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. Just like grab a piece of paper and like right now, I've got like a plate of paints that have just been sitting out for a long time. I've got my little travel palette. Because usually when I do a nice big piece, I take time, I choose my colors, I kind of pick my mood. But for this, I was like, yeah, I just want bright, happy colors. What do I have on my desk right now? What brush do I have close to me right now? Which is a size 10 Princeton Neptune round brush, in case you want to know. So I understand that things are chaotic. Gosh, there's so much going on. But a painting like this that is nice and loose with just the idea of having fun with color, 10 minutes. Just carve out 10 minutes. Grab whatever is nearby and put something down. And maybe you'll come up with something really great, like how I ended up really loving this sunflower piece. I don't know that I've ever made a sunflower painting I've loved as much as this one. And it just felt so good to do. A bit of technique right here. I'm just lifting pigment off. The painting has dried enough to where if I lift the pigment, I don't start just creating these massive water blooms. But it's still nice and soft, so I can lift the pigment pretty easily. And that is a nice thing about the Arteza paper, is it lifts really well. But back to my pep talk. If at the end you don't end up liking it, it's fine. You got your brush miles in. You got to play with some color. You got to play with the salt and just throw things on. And this for me was very much needed. And sometimes I personally am like, oh, I always come back to flowers. Why do I always come back to flowers? I come back to flowers because they're fun. They're fun. They're easy. You can just kick back, paint some petals. And as far as these sunflowers go, cheery yellow, big centers, people can assume they're sunflowers. And now I'm noticing I've left a lot of white gaps, so I'm just softening those with my brush. I don't want to lift the paint too much, but I do want to soften some of those hard edges. All right, I've hit the point. I gotta let this dry because I gotta go. All right, that first wash is dry. I have brushed the salt off of my paper, and honestly, I love it. I could leave it like this and be totally happy. So if you end up at this spot where your first wash is all dry and it's everything you wanted it to be, but you might want to push it further, my first bit of advice would be keep this, go get another piece of paper and do another one, and then put all the detail you want on that one. However, this is for learning, and I'm not submitting this to a gallery. I'm not planning to frame this. It's not for like a commission. So I'm really happy with it. As an artist, I should probably stop, but let's show you how I might finish this. So I've already got a hierarchy going. This one's my most important one, then this one, then this one. I absolutely love how this one has come out. There's just enough of a center, but it's further back. It's kind of dreamy, almost like you don't even know it's a sunflower. Perfect. I'm not going to do anything to that one. Because this one is our hero, this will be the one that gets the most focus, and I might do something here. I really actually like how this came out, but I can give some ideas. So if all of this had ended up very loose and like blown out, then yeah, we would need to do more work. But I've already got like a lovely curved hard line here, and this part already looks like the petals are coming out of the center, and I love the ambiguity here. I don't really want to do anything, but I'll at least do a little bit. Oh, there goes my brush to illustrate. So one thing I might do is round out the center down here. And so one way I could do that is adding purple, or I'm actually going to grab the magenta. And we can just add a few dots to suggest I don't want a nice curved line. I just want a few little dashes. And then with the wet brush, I'm going to bleed that up into the center of the sunflower. Just encourage it. But personally, I don't really even like that. So I'm going to blend that together. Maybe even drag a little bit out. Water's your friend if you don't like something. And honestly, I wasn't really a fan of that. That is something you can do. And in the case of your painting, that might be great. But honestly, there's still a hint of it. It's still there, but I washed most of it away. How about some of the purple? What if we, on some sunflowers, their centers are a little bit darker? Maybe just add a little? Forgot to grab a paper towel. Maybe I'll go in a little stronger. Yeah, it looks all right. I'm gonna dry off my brush. I've got a thirsty brush, and I'm just gonna soften the edge. Okay, that actually looks pretty nice. So with this one up here, I really don't want to touch it. But if you don't like how far that pink came out and you want to bring it back, and because this one's further away, we can even go in with the purple, a little more. And I can start hinting that that's where the center is, and then bleed it or soften it into the center. And that just gives it a little more dimension. Though honestly, I don't really like that either. So I'm just going to lift it off. But be careful, because depending on your pigment and your paper, if I go about lifting too much, I'm actually going to take the paint off the paper, even though it's dried. So be careful when you do that. And it's good to know your pigments and know your paper. I'm going to drop a little bit of a stronger purple here in the center. Just seems like it needs it. And blend it a little. All right, one other way we can get a little bit of movement going that might be kind of fun is to, yeah, I couldn't think of an actual word, so I use sound effects, but grab a toothbrush, I'm gonna wet it. I'm gonna pick up this quinacridone gold. And what I'll do first is just grab a scrap piece of paper that I've lying around and go, do I like it? Okay. Grab my paper again, and I'm going to turn it upside down, or at least get it at the angle that I can more easily spray. Oh, a dot happened in my center. I'll just go, boop, like that. And it's not super obvious, but now I've got a little more movement going on down here. And if you don't like that it's only happening in one spot, you can maybe do just a little bit in another spot, just so it's not only in one area. All right. Well, I think that gives some pretty good tips as far as how to finish a painting. But really, I could have stopped. I didn't have to do any of this. And so I would say if you do reach that point and you want to experiment more, get another piece of paper, do another one. Heck, maybe even try doing 3. Have one where you have barely any detail, and then one where you put every single petal in, and then do one that's kind of in the middle, and see which one suits you the best. But anyway, no painting is done until it's signed. And that's one thing that I've heard from artists is that they don't know where to sign, how to sign their paintings. So I've got a lovely composition. I don't really want to put my signature down here. And honestly, I think it'd work best right here, but now that area is wet. I could probably get away with it. Let's see. Oh, hush, shy. There we go. There's my signature. And now the painting's done. That does look pretty strong. It will dry paler, but one thing I can do, paper towel, dot, dot, and lift. And that way it's still there, but now it's kind of blended into the composition. All right, well, thanks so much for watching. If there's anything you want to see from me, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to keep on tab for what is coming next, subscribe because I post videos every Monday and Thursday. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.